Hey everyone, and welcome to World Conservation Summits. And my name is Tanya Anderson, and I am your host on this amazing summit. And today we have, let's see, Michelle Desilets. Okay, you get to serve me with your last name, my friend.
It's Desilets, but I'll allow that as well.
Desilets,
Yeah.
Michelle Desilets. Nice to see you, my friend.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So nice to have you here. It's a blessing. So who is this lady we are looking at? She is director and also founder of the Orangutan Land Trust. And I will share a little bit about the mission of it, and Michelle will dig deeper into like where does this passion start? Like where does it come from since she chose to start a place for orangutan and save them and really protect their natural habitats? So the mission of Orangutan Land Trust is to provide sustainability solutions for the longer term surviving of the orangutan in the wild by ensuring safe areas of forests for its consequent survival. Okay, that word is living like, oh, how do I say that word? So my friend, tell us a little bit about, because you are founder, the whole everything started in 2001, which you start this amazing organization. So yeah, share a little bit about where did it start everything, and afterwards share a little bit about your amazing organization.
Okay, so yeah, I guess it all started. I've always loved the great apes, orangutans, gorillas, bonobos, chimpanzees. My first love was the mountain gorilla. I have to admit that I really loved the mountain gorilla, and I'm not a scientist. Let's make that straight. I went a circuitous route to get here. I was a school teacher.
Oh, wow.
And during my holidays, I would go off to Africa or Asia to go try to see these animals in the wild. And it was in 1994, what's that, almost 30 years ago, that I went to Borneo and I met a little orphaned orangutan that stole my heart and changed my life forever. His name was Somalia. And I proceeded to return to, he was like kind of in a rescue kind of center, but not very much one. I proceeded to go back and forth to Borneo to look after orphaned orangutans as volunteer. And there I met a most amazing woman who would end up being my best friend and partner in crime. And that's your native, Lona Droscher Nielsen. It was, yeah, quite well known, I think, in your country for the amazing work that she's done for orangutans. So we got it into our heads, me as a school teacher, her as an ex-airline attendant.
Oh, wow.
For SAS, yeah, that we could do this better than the place that we were volunteering at. We thought we could improve welfare and have a more dedicated system of rehabilitation so that these orphan orangutans could, really survive back in the wild, not always be at a rescue center. So with that crazy thought, I went out looking for money. She went out looking for land. We both found what we were looking for, and it came together in 1998. We opened the Nairumenting orangutan rehabilitation project in central Borneo. Now, 99% of the work was Lona. I must give her credit. I was more of a sounding board and cheerleader and fundraiser for it at that time. So at that time, I also opened what was called the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation UK. Now, the Nairumenting project was under the Indonesian NGO known as Borneo Orangutan Survival. So I opened up this charity in the UK to, one, draw attention to the plight of orangutans, and launch campaigns to better protect them, and also to raise money for the project. Now, we created this sanctuary with an idea that we could take in as many as 100 orangutans. And back in those days, Most of these orangutans were coming from the illegal pet trade, international or local. People are keeping them as pets. So kill the mother, keep the baby kind of thing. And then in the early part of the 2000s, oil palm, the cultivation of oil palm for the palm oil that we eat in so many of our products really took hold in that region. And suddenly it wasn't baby orangutans so much anymore. It was, adult wild orangutans, mothers and babies, all, displaced by the clear cutting and the burning of their forests, starving, victims of human wildlife conflicts, machete wounds and gunshot wounds, and just the most horrific conditions you can imagine. Lona saying to me, it's like you've got a bathtub overflowing. Do you quickly go to get a mop, or do you turn off the tap? She said, we need to turn off the tap of these orangutans flying in. And she gave me the task to look into the issue, what we're going to do about the palm oil. How are we going to deal with the governments that are, driving this, the international and local companies that are, financially, really interested in this, communities also that depend on it for their livelihoods and so forth. How do we, first of all, get them to stop killing and maiming the orangutans? And then ultimately, how do we stop them from taking their landscape? And when I started moving into that kind of work, looking at the solutions for that, it became clear that we needed like a different organization. So the BOSS UK organization was still very much focused on the cute little orphan orangutans and fundraising, adopting out money for taking care of the babies. And the other people involved were not so interested in this bigger picture kind of thing. So I went away and I started Orangutan Land Trust, again with Lona and some of the trustees from BOSS UK. And that was, again, where the idea is to enable sustainable solutions for the long-term survival of the orangutan in the wild. And that is by ensuring that their habitat remains intact.
Yeah.
And the only way we're going to do that is in cooperation with those stakeholders who have an interest in that land. Yeah. And that has been a focus. I mean, we still fundraise. We're not a fundraising organization per se, but where we do raise funds, it is directed to partners on the ground who, lately we've been fighting fires. I don't know if it's been in your news, but Borneo is burning as it does most years. But this year is really bad again because of the El Nino effect. So the whole Southeast Asian region is blanketed in haze from these fires that some are naturally occurring, others are set to clear land. So we've got teams out there trying to fight these fires and prevent fires from erupting, rescuing animals from the fires, working with communities, so forth. We have teams restoring forest. We have teams rescuing orangutans. We've got a new problem in the eastern part of Borneo where coal mining is driving huge, catastrophic destruction. And we've got as many as 100 orangutans that need rescuing from these coal mining concessions. So we've had an emergency fund trying to get, the rescuers out there to be able to pick up these orangutans. But a great deal of our work is more sitting behind computers or in meeting rooms in Singapore, Amsterdam, or Jakarta, trying to work out solutions for these drivers of deforestation.
But it's crazy. Like, do the government not see there's benefit to protect the natural jungle with the orangutan and the sun bears and all the amazing animals that's in it?
Yeah. It's been a long struggle, but the Indonesian government in recent years has really shown a great deal of progress In fact, Indonesia's rate of deforestation, particularly deforestation caused by oil palm, has been declining on a steady basis, and I think it was 2022 reached the lowest rate of deforestation since 1990. So they're real, and a lot of that comes down to government initiatives of no new plantations and forested areas, as well as the voluntary kinds of certification systems like the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil, so there's a lot of factors going into why the deforestation and subsequent loss of biodiversity has declined so significantly. And it's also declining in Malaysia, the other country where orangutans live. So it's showing some willingness, but it's still a struggle. Today, the Minister of Environment of Indonesia denied that there's any fires, and Malaysia is just like they can't even see 10 feet in front of them.
Oh my gosh.
So so there is a sense of denial at the same time as some good work.
Is it positive the government have started to open their eyes to see the benefits to protect the jungle of many reasons? Also, tourists is coming to Borneo to see like this beautiful jungle that is down there.
Ecotourism could present a solution, a part of a solution. Well, you can't replace all the economic development that takes place from mining and oil palm with ecotourism. Ecotourism in Indonesia is very it's very much behind what
really?
You might see in Malaysia. It's not well organized. There's a lot of unethical ecotourism, especially surrounding orangutan viewing. It's not been priced out. Like if you go to Africa to see orangutans, see gorillas even, you pay a lot of money for that privilege. And I mean, I remember I was 30 years ago, and I think I paid $800 for 1 hour with the gorillas. And of course, the small group, and you kept your distance, and it was all very much in the gorillas' interests more than the tourist interest. And that kind of revenue was enough to turn around the almost ensured extinction of the mountain gorilla to now that mountain gorillas are increasing year on year, almost solely due to sustainable ecotourism, and that huge revenue that it made it worth keeping them alive. That is kind of lacking in Indonesia, because historically, particularly around orangutans, historically it's been just far too easy. Just rock up with your backpack, pay $10 for a park fee, go up and hang out with some orangutans, and there's no controls onto whether they have contact with them or you have any health screening. And I think at Camp Leakey they say they could get up to 1,000 tourists a day. I mean, that's just crazy. That's not good ecotourism, and none of that money's really. It's going to a couple of tour operators, but it's not going to the conservation of the species. And so real rethinking of where ecotourism. There is some good ecotourism, and where we could take in the future. But I think more importantly, it's all eyes on places like Indonesia or Brazil or whatever in the deforestation, and governments now. The EU has a new legislation on companies being required to ensure that the ingredients, I think there's 6-7 main ingredients or commodities that they purchase are free from deforestation. So rubber, beef, soy, palm, and others fall onto this. So now companies will be required to show that any palm oil coming into the EU is free from deforestation. So it's in Indonesia and Malaysia's interest to ensure that they're producing deforestation-free palm oil, which means they're saving forests. So it's that kind of interplay of markets and the political level of you can't hide this away anymore. You're responsible to the global community for protecting your forest and your biodiversity.
Mm. Hmm. So what is the, if I can say, like the status, or how is it going with, you have shared a bit about it, how is it going for the orangutan in the wild?
Okay, so the orangutan, there's 3 species of orangutan. There's
Oh,
a
really?
Sumatran orangutan, the Borneo orangutan, and the only in the past few years was identified as a separate species, the Tapanuli orangutan, which lives in Sumatra. Now, we knew they were there, but we didn't know that they were different from Sumatran orangutans as far as their genetic history and morphology and so forth. So the Tapanuli is the rarest great ape in the world, with only 800 individuals, more or less, left, and they're all of these species are considered critically endangered, one step away from extinction, but these are the most critically endangered, the most likely to go extinct in our timeline if we don't take immediate action. And that is due to mining, as well as a planned hydroelectric dam in the region that will divide their habitat and really spell trouble for them. So a lot of work being done there. The others, while being critically endangered, they're not likely to go extinct anytime soon, but they'll be in that really critical area. And that's because in the protected areas where they live, their populations are pretty stable. We're doing a pretty good job at looking at them in national parks and protected areas. Not too bad, but the fact is most orangutans don't live in national parks and protected areas. They live in these areas that are fragmented by other uses, such as mining and oil palm. And that's where the real work needs to be focused on. And that's where we stand to lose tens of thousands of orangutans if we don't pursue sustainable development agendas and come up with these solutions for their survival. And some of those solutions involve, you've got a pocket of orangutans here. Sorry, I'm dropping my headphone. Maybe that population isn't viable, and you've got another small population, another pocket of forest, not viable. But if we connect it to them and they can move freely and breed freely amongst each other without being killed, then we have a viable, genetically viable population that can go, breed into the future and because they are slow breeding. So
Oh, really?
it's very, mother orangutan only has, depending on which subspecies you look at and what region, has an infant every 6 to 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you take out a female, or there's no male breeding stock, then it would take so long to replace the loss numbers, right? Because they don't breed fast enough to replenish the stock, that kind of thing. So
that is crazy. Yeah. So, I did not know that fact. That is a little bit crazy around that fact. Oh, wow. So, and they're all protected in the region, that like by law, they're protected, but in practice, as seldom does someone who is harmed or captured or sold an orangutan have any kind of, jail sentence or fine. It's just brushed under the carpet. And so there's not a lot of disincentive for breaking the law and harming a protected species. And that's something that, really presents a challenge. That's a little bit crazy. If they are protected of the government and someone steal them or kill the mom to take the baby, they do not get like a fine or put in the jail as other country. Like that is horrible what the punishment is. Yeah. So that is crazy. That is crazy. So around to the audience, how can they help to save the orangutans where they are, or as a tourist? What is your guidance for the audience? Okay.
Yes, started talking about tourism. So if you would like to go and see orangutans in Borneo or Sumatra, do your homework, get in touch with us, make sure you go to a location where the orangutans are properly being cared for and not exploited for tourist use. We recommend the Borneo Orangutan Survival Projects. There's volunteer opportunities, and there's also a company called the Great Projects who also take you to the Boss Projects. We can always use donations of any size. You'll be surprised how far, 10 krona go in Indonesia. It's just, I mean, yeah, there's inflation, but it's very satisfying to see how far your money could go. So we really welcome donations. But the one thing that everybody can do almost every day to save orangutans, and we totally believe this, because oil palm is so catastrophic for orangutans and their habitat. We believe that the single most important thing everyone could do is make sure they choose and demand only sustainable palm oil in the products they buy. We don't call for a blanket boycott. We don't say no to palm oil, because that would be counterproductive. We need to drive this industry to be more sustainable, to protect orangutans. And you don't do that by walking away from the problem. You do it by favoring those companies that are responsible and looking after wildlife. And yes, go ahead and boycott the companies that aren't, if you like. But it's about sending that message, and even a tweet to a brand you like, or supermarket, and say, hey, can you tell me if the palm oil in your products is sustainable? This is something that's really important to me. This kind of continuous message to the manufacturers and the retailers really has already seen a great shift. Most of the palm oil that's coming into the EU is certified sustainable, and that's only because informed consumers concerned about these issues are demanding it. So we really ask people to look for sustainable palm oil. If you go to our website, which is right now a little bit wonky, it's having some problems and is being rebuilt, I apologize, but there are some tools that can be used that can help you find what products are using sustainable palm oil and which are not. So that would be the most important thing we can all do.
Oh, I like that. Some guidance, because there was an organization I found that show like all the numbers of palm oil. Palm oil have so many
hundreds,
different kind of names. And when I saw the list over 30 names, just like
more than that, hundreds.
Like, how can I remember all the names?
No, and that's ridiculous to think anyone would. Yeah, it's because palm oil is very versatile, and you can break it down into these different chemical compounds that each have their own properties that are good for shampoo or something going in your vitamins, or making your toilet paper extra soft, or these kinds of things. And you can't possibly look at every label and see if it's on there and then know if it's sustainable. So it's better look, like there's something called the palm oil scorecard from the WWF, that they look at a big company that produces, thousands of products, and how are they doing on sourcing sustainable palm oil. And then you can have confidence across these products, they're good, or if they have a bad score, you might want to avoid them, or give them a tweet and say, hey, get your act in gear. I won't buy your products until they're sustainable. That kind of thing. So I like that communication. We really love social media for bringing the balance to this story.
Yeah.
Not all palm oil is bad. Not all palm oil kills orangutans. You need to make a distinction between good and bad.
Yeah.
And by choosing the good, you actually drive progress. By just walking away from problems like, well, I don't want anything to do with palm oil, I'll use a different oil. Okay, so now we're destroying the Amazon with soya, because you've used a different oil, or
That is true. It is just like I skip it even. I go to another kind of oil. Do you know where the oil coming from? Like the first process in the whole process? Because what I say is, what you buy, you support on the first process, on the whole one, so you get like
the whole
what you're
value chain,
eating,
exactly.
on the clothes, in your home, like you support the whole step by step.
I mean, you could argue that, okay, well, if I use say rapeseed or sunflower oil, which isn't developed in the tropics, okay, that sounds good. But on a global scale, it's not a replacement for oil palm because it is so much more land hungry that to replace the palm oil that we consume with those oils, you would have to clear like all of Germany or something like this, every bit of, landscape that's given over to anything urban or whatever would have to be, converted just for sunflowers. So it's about the yields. So like the palm oil uses, its yield is between 5 and 10 times as great as its competitive oils, which means that much less land has to be converted. So palm oil provides 35% of the vegetable oils that we eat globally, but only on about 6% of the land that's given over to vegetable oils. So it's that balance. You get a lot of oil from a little land. If you change oils, you get a little oil from a lot of land. And so you're just moving the problem somewhere else.
I would never think about that. That is true.
Yeah.
Because the palm oil, there is like, as I know of my awareness, so much more than me myself, is like when I wasn't born, like the palm tea, and they have like this palm oil is like a huge big like bowls, what you call like the cutting down, compared to if you're going over to like sunflower is so small flower, and you get to have so many more compared to what you get in one like palm tree, as I can imagine.
It's actually opposite, than that, like if you had 10 square meters of sunflower oil versus 10 square meters of oil palm, you can get a lot more oil out of that oil palm than the sunflowers. I mean, those fruit bunches, they're like almost like grape clusters. They weigh like 40 kilo. I mean, they're just huge. They, they're dangerous when they come down. You got to run away because they kill a person, So, and you can extract the oil from the flesh or from the kernel, and like, they produce year round, right? They can be harvested year round. So that's another reason why, companies like them, because you have a steady supply. The price is kind of stable. You're not going to run out in March and have to change your formula or something like this. And the oil palm will produce the oil, be fruitful, so to speak, for about 25 to 30 years, and then it can be replanted. If you manage the land properly, replant it. So in a way, it's renewable, and you don't have to move to another field to plant the next bunch. You can just keep using the same field, so you don't have to expand. So I mean, that's one of the main things, is to get as much use from the land you have. Make sure you get as much oil out of the land you have, rather than expand and clear or impact other areas. If you aren't going to expand, because companies do expand, that you only expand in areas that have been scientifically, with technology and drones and satellite mapping and ground truthing, shown to be free of forest, to be free from like human interests, like land claims or religious sacred sites, these kinds of things, to be free of, biodiversity, like orangutans and tigers and so forth. Not impact ecosystem services, so waterways, peat areas, so forth. So the standards for the certification of sustainable palm oil prohibit, you can't clear any forest, you can't convert any peatland, you can't harm or capture any rare, threatened, or endangered species. You must uphold human rights and labor rights, and no child labor. It's very comprehensive, all the rules that sustainable palm oil have to abide by. for it to have that seal of approval.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. I'm curious to know something. For me, I'm interested to know, like, what oil is the best one to buy? Of course, for me, I'm going for Danish, so I support my land. I don't know where they're coming from and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So I buy like ecologic oil in Denmark. So to the audience out there, like, what oil would you advise people to go after when they go and buy oil? Because a lot of people go in
Well,
like, what oil is the best one in food or to cooking?
yeah.
Or
Well, yeah, if you're buying oil,
yeah,
for frying or cooking, you're making your own meals. Yeah, we mostly buy local, rapeseed or sunflower or something like that. That's in places, in the countries where most consumption is, which is Indonesia, India, and China. The only affordable cooking oil there, it happens to be palm oil. So you can't really tell them to swap over to olive oil or something like that because they can't afford it. It's
true.
really expensive. So yeah, but in processed products, the European oils like sunflower, rapeseed don't have the qualities that manufacturers need for certain products. So for like baked products, if you use those oils, your product, a biscuit, a cookie, for example, would just go all flat and horrible. If you made it with butter, it would have a very short shelf life. It would go rancid very quickly, and then you're adding to food waste. So you need to balance that. So the palm oil has a very long shelf life. It's stable at relatively high temperatures. It doesn't impair the flavor because it's virtually odorless and flavorless. So if you stick it into something, it's not changing the flavor the way, say, olive oil might change the flavor.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, olive oil does. Yeah.
So in your products that use a vegetable oil component, you'll find that about 50% of your packaged products do contain palm oil because it serves its purpose.
Yeah.
In so many ways. It's used in chocolate quite a lot because it gives what they call good mouthfeel. It feels nice in your mouth as it melts. Some people disagree with that. You want a proper chocolate, and I'm all for a proper chocolate that just has, cocoa butter and no other additives. So there's things that, definitely don't need any other oil. That's fine to say, I'll go without oils, but where an oil is needed, the palm oil is very effective. So then we say, basically the best and often only alternative to palm oil is sustainable palm oil. So it's not only the best, it may be the only alternative in a lot of these products. So yeah, I mean, there's good stuff to be said about buying local, supporting your local industry, keeping food miles down, but in a global scale, you are going to be consuming products that have ingredients from all over the world. It's going to be virtually impossible to avoid unless you're like a forager living off the land or something like that.
I wish.
So where you are doing that, then we say look for the sustainable palm oil as the best alternative to palm oil.
Yeah. Definitely.
And again, that's more at the global scale, isn't it? It's about impacting global value chains, and your little purchase can make a difference collectively in those messages that are sent to the Indonesian or Brazilian governments. The fact that the EU has come up with this requirement for deforestation-free supply chains is, again, as I said, it's a result of people becoming aware of the ingredients in their products and not wanting to be complicit with driving deforestation. Yeah. So wherever your product is coming from, it better not have any deforestation associated with it. And that's now at a legislative level, and that's because of people, individuals like yourself, understanding the issues and calling for responsible value chains.
That is so powerful. I'm just thinking about think about my own lifestyle. It's like, that is good advice. Not like I'm skipping all palm oil as I did in the beginning. I was probably like, with the activist, I'm cutting everything.
Yeah,
Denmark
I
is
mean, you
Denmark is
boycott,
very
yeah, boycott
is
palm oil. You might as well boycott air and water and, these kinds of things. But boycotting palm oil is, we say, it's kind of like walking away from the problem, but
exactly. I've never
demanding sustainable palm oil is addressing the problem. It
I've,
won't fix it in itself,
no, of
but
course.
it's progressive. It's moving towards a more sustainable future. And I find very exciting is, we started this work on palm oil. I mean, globally, the Greenpeaces of the world and myself and
Yeah.
WWF back in 2004. So we're almost 20 years working on this issue. We've made tremendous progress in that 20 years as far as how much of the global production is sustainable versus however long it took for FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council, to get the same amount of change in the system. But for me, what's exciting is that other commodities are now looking to what we've done with palm oil. So you've got an emergent soy roundtable for responsible soy. You've got it for sugar now. You've got it for cotton. You've got a new one for rubber. So people are looking at all kinds of things that we consume, and they're following the work that we've done on palm oil. And how do you make a standard? How do you involve all the stakeholders into making a standard that's acceptable to all players, to the NGOs, social and environmental, to the governments, to the manufacturers, the retailers, the consumers? How do you create something that moves around the world and is produced and consumed every day? How do we make that a trajectory for a responsible future? And to me, that's really exciting.
Where can people get more information about you guys and your organizations, and also palm oil? You say you have a area on your homepage where people can look more into palm oil. Also WWF, they also have like a site to get more information about sustainable palm oil. So where can people find you guys?
Okay, so we are at www.forests, that's plural, FORESTS, the number 4, and then orangutans, ORANGUTANS.org, ORG. You can also find information on sustainable palm oil in some detail and some blogs by myself. Sustainable Palm Oil Choice, that's www.sustainablepalm, I think it's Sustainable Palm Oil Choice, or is it Sustainable Palm Choice? And Google it, Sustainable Palm Oil Choice.com, or not .com, .org. Anyway, Google it. There's lots of great information, blogs from WWF, myself, other organizations, and Chester Zoo also has some amazing information, especially for schools and educators. Lots of great stuff there about orangutans and sustainable palm oil. Most of the orangutan organizations have great information. Sumatran Orangutan Society, Borneo Orangutan Survival come to mind, that they have some good information about sustainable palm oil. I think those are probably your best sources. If you want to find out more detail what it means to be sustainable, you can go to the site of the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, which is rspo.org. And surely, if you have any questions about orangutans or Naarmenting Center or Lona or palm oil, always just get in touch through the email address associated at the website, and we'll be happy to chat with you. Happy to chat with schools or universities, companies, whoever might be interested in learning more about what they could do to help the orangutan and its rainforest habitat.
Amazing. And the last advice, Michelle, you have for the dear audience, what will that be?
I think just pursue a life in harmony with nature, and your everyday decisions really do have an impact on nature. And that's particularly true with the orangutan. It's a little harder, you're talking about rhinos, for example, and well, what can we do about rhino horn? I don't buy rhino horn, so stopping buying rhino horn is, here. So obviously you support the organizations that protect those animals, but here with the orangutan, even if you have no money to support the organizations, your behavior, your choices every day makes such an impact on wildlife and the planet. So make them sustainable.
Amazing, amazing. And to you, dear audience, thank you so much for watching this amazing interview with Michelle and I. And we really wish you and hope you choose to go to their webpage to click on and follow them on all the social media, and also really dig in, take a half hour today and really dig in the information about what is palm oil and what is sustainability of the palm oil, and what take 3 product you have in your home, take a look at it, discover where it's coming from, connect with the company and ask about it. So we will invite you to go and follow the organization on all social media, take a half hour to really dig in what is sustainability around palm oil, and look at 3 products you have right now. If not today, do it in the weekends. And thank you so much for watching. And to you, dear Michelle, thank you so much for you and what Lone is doing for the orangutan and for the natural habitats and the amazing work you're doing. It is so critical, and your voice is amazing, and a voice definitely people in Denmark know about you. So you're touching little Denmark.
Great. Lona will be pleased.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks so much for listening.
You're so much welcome. Bye, everyone. Have a
Bye,
nice
everyone.
day. Bye.